All right, you guys. Today I just wanted to do a video basically talking about my origin story and how I got started into even like collecting Pokemon, playing Magic, and how I even decided to even start this business. So, for those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Will. This is Kaona Games, where I run a small online TCG business. So, I been wanting to make this video for a while now. I thought about making this video like very early on, but I realized there may not be anyone to actually even see this video if I have like no subscribers or no followers. So I actually got into playing Magic in the mid 90s. I don't remember exactly what year it was. I know 4th edition was out at the time. I do remember like Ice Age coming out shortly after that, so it was like around that era. I think that was probably like 95 or so. So like whenever I go to like a draft or a pre-release or something, I always tell people that I've only been playing for about a year. And while that's not technically true, I feel like when I did play back when I was in, I think like 7th, 8th grade at the time in middle school, I didn't really know what I was doing. I don't think I was playing the game correctly. We were just going to a local, like it was like kind of like I don't think it was considered like a strip mall, but it wasn't like a full-size mall. But they actually had a Wizards of the Coast store there. For those of you that didn't know, Wizards of the Coast actually used to have physical stores. I didn't know they were the creators of like Magic and Pokemon back then, but we would go there to play. It was actually not inside the store. It was actually just like right outside of the store where they had a bunch of tables. So my friends and I would go there to play. We would also like meet up with like other like local people that would go there to play too. The most fun format I actually really enjoyed playing back then, I thought it was potentially Commander before I knew what Commander was, but I don't remember what they called it. You would typically need at least 6 players, and you would have like one person in the middle, and then you would have like these 2 wings on the side, like 2 other players. And you would have to, I don't remember how you would like attack players. I think every person like took turns as well. And you would have to, I don't know if you had to kill both of the wings of like each player before you could then attack like the main person, which would be like the general essentially. And defeating the general is like how you would win. I think the general typically had like more life as well, probably like 30 or 40 life. I don't remember. This was like all like made up. I don't know if this was, I never actually looked it up, but I don't know if this is an actual game that people used to play or maybe even still play to this day. That was definitely the way I liked to play if we could get a group big enough to do that. But other than that, it was just basically playing like my brother used to play as well, just for that. It was maybe like a year or less than a year that we even played. He enjoyed collecting as well. But I would play like my friends, and we would like try to create decks with whatever cards we had. I remember my first purchase of Magic cards, I think, was through like a classmate in 7th grade, and he sold me, I remember it was like one of those like 1-row boxes. It was either like 800 or like 1,000 cards in there for like $20 at the time. Like, I mean, $20, that was quite a bit. I mean, minimum wage back then was, I think, like less than $6 an hour. I wasn't working back then yet. So, you know, if you were working, that was probably like 4 hours of work. I don't remember exactly what cards he had in there. I think there were just a bunch of like commons and uncommons. I don't think he gave me anything rare, but I do think that is potentially where I got my like original like Force of Wills. yeah, I didn't really play Magic that long. I eventually moved on to Pokemon. A few years later, I think 1999 was when it first came out. I think when I was actually buying and collecting Pokemon at the time, it was really just the base set that I bought. I didn't realize that there was even like a first edition back then. I didn't realize there was a shadowless base cards back then. Most of my cards are most of my cards are the shadowed versions of it. So I do have like base set shadowed like Charizards, the Blastoise, the Venusaurs. I have like all of those like holo cards. I wish I did collect during the first edition like time period, but just didn't know about Pokemon. I don't even know how I even got into like Pokemon, because none of my friends collected Pokemon, none of my family members collected Pokemon. I would just go to that Wizards of the Coast store and buy a handful of packs whenever I got like money. Back like during 1999, I must have been either like a junior or senior at the time. So I was spending the money that I made working at, I think it was either Chuck E. Cheese or Circuit City at the time, and buying like 5 to 10 packs whenever I could afford it. And it was just like ripping packs, and like for me, I didn't really care about the Charizards or Venusaurs. For me, my favorite card was either the Gyarados, the Blastoise, or I really liked Zapdos at the time. I even tried making a deck, and I was going to try and like learn how to play, but I never actually learned how to play. But that phase didn't last very long either. It was maybe about like a year of collecting. I even collected between Magic and Pokemon, I collected Star Trek cards, which was, I still have them too, and I hear they're like worth like nothing now. I really wish I didn't spend that much money on Star Trek cards. It was like a few $100s I spent at the time. Those were like completely wasted. But 1999, I feel like, was like the last year I bought or collected like any cards. And it wasn't until... Okay, so there is one thing I did forget to talk about. Between 1999, when I last collected Pokemon, and before I started playing Magic again, when I first moved from Southern California here to Washington, I was working at a restaurant. It was actually a family restaurant. And there was this guy that I knew that would come in fairly regularly, like a few times a week, and he'd always like order food, and he would chat with my cousin who was also working there. And he found out that I used to play Magic and that I had a huge like Magic collection. I guess it would be considered like vintage Magic. And he asked if I could like bring my box and have him like go through it. So I brought my like 4,000 count, 4 or 5,000 count box. It was one of the 4-row boxes, which I still have today. And he sat down for a couple of hours. He went through a bunch of my cards, and he picked out about like 11 cards that he was interested in buying. I made the mistake of selling him those 11 cards and trusting him. I realize now, like, you probably shouldn't be so trusting, but I figured since my cousin knew him and they seemed like they were friends at the time, that he seemed trustworthy. He offered me $1,100 for the cards. I don't remember exactly which cards he took out and wanted to buy, but I know he did buy 4 of my Tundras. Those Tundras I remember buying for $5 each back in like the mid-90s. They must have been like revised Tundras. I didn't know how to tell the difference between all the different types of sets back then, because they used to just basically be like a white border or black border. It was a white border Tundra in varying conditions. Like even at the time, there was a lot of like play dirt on it. It was at best probably lightly played for my Tundras. There were probably ones that were in the like medium play to like heavy play. I don't know how much the Tundras were going for in 2018. I'm assuming even in the condition that they were in, probably in the 1 to 200 range. I have like never like looked them up. I know I've looked them up at one point before, but this was like years and years ago. I don't know how much they were in 2018, and I don't know like what the market has been like for those cards since then. I believe he also took, I don't know if he took or if he bought all of my Force of Wills. I think I had like 4 to 6 copies of Force of Will. But yeah, he took, I think, a lot of my like higher value cards. So I wish I still had them today, because if I still had them today, it would be nice to be able to see like what cards they were, how much they've gone up. I probably would have just like held on to them and just let them keep appreciating, honestly. But when I sold the cards at the time, I was thinking like, I am never going to get into playing Magic. I never could foresee myself ever selling, getting into selling trading cards, essentially. But that's what he was actually doing. I think he was actually buying collections, or like, I remember talking to him a little bit. He kind of does like what I'm kind of basically doing now. He will find a deal on collections, he buys them, and then he like resells them. But he was a player as well. He played a lot of Commander, I knew at the time. But yeah, it would have been nice to still have those cards. I still have my box of cards from when I was like a teenager, and a few years, probably like a year or two ago, when I went to go visit my brother in LA, I was asking him like, hey, do you still have your Magic cards from back then? He didn't think he did, but he said that if he did, it'd be in one of the totes that he had stored in his garage. So I was like, yeah, let's go see if you still have them. And he brought down the tote. We looked through it, and it was like at the very bottom of the tote. He had them still, and he didn't want them, so he was just like, here, you can just like have them. I briefly like went through them that day, and it looked like he didn't have as many like valuable cards, but he did have cards in the, he had like a few cards in like the $50 range or so. So there are some like older cards that he has of value. I think the cards that were, the only card that I can remember was like a Demonic Tutor. I don't remember like from which set it was, but yeah, that was the only other interaction I had with trading cards until I finally started playing Magic again. I believe it was November of 2023 when I had gone to my first pre-release for Lost Cabins at Ixalan. Really enjoyed the pre-release, the sealed, playing in a sealed event like that, and then got into playing or like going, like attending drafts. I think Lost Caverns at Ixalan, I started to like really fall in love with playing Magic, and I think by the time, after Lost Caverns at Ixalan, it was like Murders of Carl Matter. That's when I went pretty hard on playing Magic, and there were points where I was going to like anywhere between, I was going to at least like one draft every week, upwards of 3 drafts a week at the 3 local card stores. There was like one on Wednesday, there was another one on Thursday, there was another one on Friday, and there was one on Sunday as well. So I'd go to sometimes up to like 3 out of the 4 possible drafts around my area. Got like better and better, did decently well, would frequently go like 2-1, even like in draft pods, and started to collect a lot of just draft chaff, essentially, or just even cards that I would draft. I would never, if I knew a card was worth a lot, I would rare draft, but for the most part, I always drafted to win. because I didn't know what I was going to do with all the rare cards or even all the bulk cards that I got. I figured I'd hang on to them and then maybe find a way like later down the road to like sell them. I think the peak of playing Magic for me was Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Even went to this huge like store championship where I made it into the finals out of, I don't know how many people there were, close to like 100 people were there. Made it into the top 2. Came in second place, unfortunately. I went against this guy that I played a lot of in the past for multiple drafts that we would attend. He attended as many drafts as I had gone to. I knew he was like a very seasoned and a very good player, so I had no expectations of even like beating him. I didn't think I wasn't even sure if I'd make it into the top 8, which we then did like a mystery booster draft, or no, it was like a chaos draft. Didn't think I would get past top 8 into the top 4. I made it into the top 2, and going up against him, it wasn't a very close game. I feel like I almost got like lucky getting into the finals. His prize was really good. It was I don't remember what it was, but it was worth like a few $100s. I think the card that I got for coming into second place was only like a $25 card. I think it was called like Hitesugu. I don't remember exactly what set it's from, but it's supposed to be like a nicer store promo. It was still really fun and like nice to play. But after that phase, I knew the next set would be Modern Horizons 3. Heard a lot about it. Heard like the other like Modern Horizons sets were like very popular, but they were also very expensive. I had gone to, I think, 2 or 3 of the Modern Horizons 3 pre-releases. Rather than, I think, the card store that I go to, they charge about $30 for the pre-release. I think Modern Horizons 3 was either $50 or $60, so it was a decent jump up. I knew that if I were to draft Modern Horizons 3, I probably wouldn't do too many drafts, like at most, like once a week. It just wouldn't be something that I could afford like long term. So that's when, because I had that like break where I wasn't like really drafting, there were like no like sealed events for me to like go to, I started looking into like, how can I sell the cards that I've been drafting and getting in all these limited events and be able to essentially sustain my limited playing habits. Drafting wasn't cheap. Going to these limited events, the pre-release events were definitely not cheap. So that's when I started doing research, just Googling, reading on Reddit, watching YouTube videos of people that were essentially selling Magic cards as their way of living. It's how they made, they were either doing it part-time or they were doing it full-time, like RNG Games or TCG Bulkings. Watched a ton of their videos and had planned out, okay, if I'm going to do this like as like a part-time thing, what do I need? What supplies do I need? I was making like an Excel sheet and I was trying to shop around for like, how much are penny sleeves going to cost? How much are top lures going to cost? How much are card savers going to cost? I was like trying to figure out like what like rigid form of like protection I would put like with the cards. Like even things like envelopes, how much does ink cost? How much does paper cost? How much would a printer cost? All the like little things. I'm like, I think I had a lot of this decision paralysis at the time. It was a lot harder than I thought to make like decisions on like what things I was gonna buy, because I wanted to be able to buy things in bulk and then not have to buy it again. So like some of the things that I had bought back in, when I started buying things, it was around like end of July, like August of like last year. I still have those supplies, and I think I saved a lot of money because I wasn't buying, you know, just like 100 or 1,000 like penny sleeves. I bought 10,000 penny sleeves. What other like things like envelopes? I wasn't just buying like a pack of like 50. I bought 750 envelopes that I'm still going through now. Stamps. I could have bought a roll of 100. I bought 2,000 stamps because at the time stamps were going to go up in price, so I wanted to like lock in that amount and buy as many stamps as I could. And I figure like later down the road, if I need to, I'll buy a bunch more stamps again, or I'll use a service like stamps.com or something. So after I started ordering a bunch of supplies, I was like, okay, let's try to sign up for TCG Player. That was a huge hassle because I didn't think it was going to take me, I think it took me like 2 to 3 weeks to get like approved. I don't know if it was like during that time period, but I was reading that a lot of people were having issues where TCG Player would like lock their accounts and it would take weeks for them to get approved. Some people like waited months and they never got approved. But I just kept reaching out to them and asked them, hey, what's going on? Why is my account locked? Why am I not approved to sell? Like, I'm really looking forward to like quickly selling. And finally got to like level 1, and I was in like strategy mode like right away. I was like, okay, which cards out of like all the cards that I have do I want to start selling? Having only 100 cards listed, that was the difficult part because I hit that 100 very quickly. I basically, I knew like what cards were popular at the time, and I basically listed not necessarily like the highest dollar amount cards, but cards that had high sell-through rates. So I knew which cards would sell quickly. So I essentially jumped from level 1 to level 3 within, I'd say like a little over a week. It was probably like 8 or 9 days or something. From 3 to 4, it took a while because during that time period, I had a lot of stuff going on and I wasn't fully dedicating myself to making this like a full-time thing. It was still going to be like a part-time thing. I was going to continue like looking for an actual job. So from 3 to 4, I think it took me like 3 to 4 weeks to get there. I probably could have gotten there a lot faster if I did put like my whole heart into it, like put all my effort into it. That's essentially why I decided to start doing what I was doing. It was going to be just a part-time thing. I then quit my job as a dog groomer and decided, hey, this is probably like a perfect time right now. Let me see if I can do this full-time instead. So I started to source bulk like locally. I was buying like all different card games. I actually have a lot of like Star Wars Unlimited. I have like Lorcana. I have Flesh and Blood, which I actually have a lot of. There's a big like Flesh and Blood community around my area. Flesh and Blood and One Piece are 2 bigger card games that get played a lot around my area. I don't know what I'm going to do with those cards. I'm thinking about just like bulk selling them away and just focusing on Magic, Pokemon, and One Piece, just because I do get a lot of bulk One Piece, like Japanese One Piece at least, and I do get some English One Piece as well. Yeah, that's essentially my origin story. Oh, and I'll probably put a photo like up here of why I named my channel Keone Games, or my store Keone Games. I was just trying to figure out a good name to use. I know Keone is not an easy name to pronounce. I feel like most people mispronounce it. In fact, my brother mispronounces that name and he says Keone as well. And I think that's how most people would probably pronounce it. Either is fine. I just like to pronounce it the proper way. So Keone is my dog who's still alive in LA. Don't have him with me. My brother and I both decided to adopt him. I left him with my brother when I moved back up here to Washington. Didn't want to fight over custody of Keone, even though I would have loved to have him with me. So I've been using that username for like various like online games I've played over the years, and I figured Keone games would be good rather than like Keone TCG or Keone Magic or Keone Pokemon. So yeah, let me actually show you some of my English Pokemon cards from when I guess I was a kid still. Okay, so I actually just took these out, but these were severely curled. They're a lot straighter now. I've actually had these cards in this like glass container with a bunch of, I actually have some cards in here still of cards that I have bought. They're curled like the silica packets. I read that this was a good way of like uncurling cards. I wanted to give it a try, so I essentially had these cards here from back when I was younger. They've been sitting in there for about 2 months now, and I actually haven't like really looked at them very much. But the last time I took them out and like looked at them, they were pretty curled, but now they're actually fairly straight. I really should put these cards in top loaders as well, rather than just having them in penny sleeves. But yeah, I don't know how I got this Japanese card. I think it was probably a card I had traded for, because I didn't buy any. I think that's what, no, it's not Fossil. I know this is one of the earlier sets, and I can't remember the name of it by its like set symbol. I know it's not Fossil, is the little dinosaur footprint. This one I can't remember. You guys are gonna have to tell me, but yeah, Japanese cards, they're in this era. I mean, even like the back looks different. Oh, this is 1996, but I don't know when this card was printed. Japanese cards from this time period were very hard to get here in the US, so I remember Japanese cards being very desirable just because of how rare they were. I think this is one of the few Japanese like holos that I actually have, and I must have traded for this. I don't remember how I got it. Everything else like here, I believe I either pulled or potentially traded for. So these are like in no particular order. I just kind of grouped them up. I have these Chanseys here, like the foiling on these, like even though I never really played with them, I don't think I kept them in the best condition, so they shouldn't have any like bad surface scratches. The foiling might be like scratched up a bit. What if I got 5 Chanseys there? Magnetons. I must have traded for this one. Oh geez, you can see it. I can see it now. Let me see. I don't know if you can see it, like right there. There's a huge like crease. I don't know if this would be considered damage. And like even like the foiling, I don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty scratched up. But this must be my only like first edition foil that I have, which is pretty cool. My favorite card, I really want to make a card, well, one of my favorite cards. I wanted to make a deck with Zapdos in it. I think I only had 3 Zapdos, so I didn't have 4 to actually make a deck. I think I really liked the Zapdos because its ability seemed like it was pretty strong. I don't know if this was considered a really good card back then, but just reading its stats and the damage it can do, it seemed like a very powerful card. I've only got 1 Machamp. Ooh, there's like a dent there on the top. Kind of see it. Some whitening. But yeah, even though these cards sat in sleeves for pretty much the entire time I got them, I'm sure I did not handle these cards very well when I had first gotten them. 3 Hitmonchans, Ninetales. Oh, and then my Charizards. I think I pulled all of these Charizards because I think they're all shadowless Charizards. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I had at one point 5 or 6 of them. I know I've given one to my youngest cousin. I don't know if he still has it or not, but I don't even know how much these are worth. Like, I've never looked at their pricings for them. These are definitely not like PSA 9s or 10s, I don't think. They're probably like 8 and below. But I figure I would just hang on to them still. Like, there's no rush for me to try and sell these. Mewtwo, I really like Mewtwo as well. I think a lot of people used to like Mew and Mewtwo back then. I realized this Alakazam is actually a shadowless one, so I might have actually traded for this one. But you can see like the edges, like the shadowed one compared to the shadowless one. It's like lighter in color. The color is off. It's kind of weird. It's different. Yeah, and then Gyarados, I really liked Gyarados, so I tried to make a water deck. So I had, why does that one look weird? That one looks more washed out. Yeah, so I must have pulled, oh, I have a shadowless Gyarados. Might have traded for this one too. I don't know. I could have actually bought a few packs where they were shadowless, the baseless shadowless one. But the Blastoise, I only have this one Blastoise, and I was really hoping to pull more Blastoise because I really wanted to make a water deck, and I did put one together. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just want to share you guys what got me into Pokemon and Magic, and how there was like a large gap in between, and I eventually got back into Magic again. And this is how I went from playing Magic to now only going to a pre-release once every 3 months, and I basically try to sell Pokemon, Magic, and One Piece full time. But I'll see you guys next time.